You have a collect call from an inmate at the Washington Correctional Center. To accept the call, press 5.
There's nothing like waking up to the sound of clacking and buzzing as the doors crack in the morning after count clears. Waking up to the reality of life in prison. For some, it's just a stop along their journey, a milepost, an experience. For others, it is a revolving door, in and out, and that's their way of life, stuck in the cycle, pulling and eating away at them. And then for some, it becomes their destination, as the hammer came down and that judge issued them a death sentence. The slow way, by way of life in prison. This is the life of aLifer by Taylor Conway.
Keep on walking down the line. Keep on walking down the line. Keep on walking down that street. Keep on walking down the line.
Hello, friends and family. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate all the people that come out and listen to this podcast here on Lifeof aLifer. You know, it means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to a lot of other people. Having a voice from the inside to be able to express to the world what's really going on and some of the positive aspects of things. You know, you hear a lot about all the negativity, all the drama-filled, lifestyles and crazy people and all the riffraff and stuff like that, but you don't really get to hear about stories of change. You don't really get to hear positive aspects of people's lives that get locked up and basically thrown away, never to be heard from again. So we're trying to make these people heard from. You know, you get people that spent decades and decades. We had a guy on here that had spent nearly 40 years. I think there's a guy on here that spent over 40 years, 45 years or something inside. And this guy's done all kinds of great stuff with his time. And so not everybody's just a monster. Not everybody's a crazy person that you hear about and they see on TV, and that gets people excited and built up off all the drama and suspense and things that these TV shows like to show. So we just want to show another side, the human aspect. You know, the people that, hey, they made mistakes. Some people didn't even do what they're accused of, such as myself. I'm not saying that I'm a perfectly innocent person, but I'm wrongfully convicted of the crime that I'm convicted of. I am adamant about that because the way that the system is set up is that you're going to get a conviction out of them, and then you're never going to be heard from again because there's not really any system in place to show rehabilitation. So later on, I have a good question from somebody that I'm going to talk about. So stick around after the interview today, and you'll hear a little bit about that. I appreciate people that are bringing in questions because I like to do that at the end of the show. Get a question and answer session going from, people that are listening, or you hit us up on the Instagram or Twitter. It's at aLife of aLifer. And, we're able to interact with the audience and keep the questions coming. If there's anything you want to know, if there's anything you're curious about, if there's any suggestions that you have, go ahead and hit me up. I'm all ears. I can't wait. I'm getting excited. I really am. To see and hear my own album. I can't wait for the Free Taylor Project to come out. It's something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. It's years and years and years in the making to get this thing to come to life. And I really do look forward to it. It's going to be coming out at the end of the month. And I hope that you'll be able to go and listen to it yourself, because there's a lot of songs that are coming from my heart, and my friend Caleb Twidwell, who wrote them with me. There's different spectrums of music on there. Songs that range from, nice country love song to a rock, like alternative rock style, just really, really deep, songs, and also even some country, like with a little hip hop flavor in them. I actually like that style quite a bit. I'm a fan of hip hop and the real stuff, not this new stuff that's all watered down and sounds like the same beat playing over and over again. I really just can't stand that stuff, but I'm a connoisseur of music. I love music in all different genres, everything from old school rock and roll to, some of the newer rock. Country music is probably my all-time favorite. I like outlaw country music. But now this new style of country mixed with rap, there's a lot of them that I really don't care for. They just sound like garbage. But there's some of them that just really hit, and they're real. Like my dude Seth Anthony, man, that guy, he's got a voice that really expresses the meaning of what he's saying, and he's a real-ass dude. This dude served a bunch of time in prison, got out, and now he's pursuing his dream, and he's having success, man, and that, I really give it up to that dude. He came on the show here, and I interviewed him, and he talked to us, man, and that was cool. He's got his album coming out. I can't wait to get it. But he's got that song, Rebel Road, and it's talking about prison and stuff. That's what really made me check this dude out and then get in touch with him, man, because I think that, what he's doing is great, and he's supporting what we're doing, so I support everything that he's doing, man. That dude's the truth, man. And so, anyways, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, and I look forward to, we're going to do some music with him. I look forward to making more music in the future, and I just like doing different styles, so I like variety. I don't like doing the same stuff, because different emotions and different feelings, different perspectives, I feel like require different sounds. So that's why I kind of am into a variety of stuff in life in general, so it doesn't get stagnant. Things get stagnant, and then you get stuck in a cycle, and that's when the creativity dies, I believe. So, with everything that we're doing here, we're coming up on our 1-year mark of our 4th edition of Inside Design Conviction, the magazine, which that's another monumental checkpoint in, what we're doing here and the progress and everything. This Inside Design Conviction, the magazine, is going to be coming out at the end of January. It's exciting, man. It's our 4th edition. We have it. It comes out quarterly, and generally we send that out to people across the country that are in prison. And it's providing hope. It's giving people a space to put out their positive energy, put out their positive vibe, telling success stories of people that have gotten out and are doing good now. Doing something with their abilities, with their creativity, with their dreams, because there's a lot of people that have gotten out and do good and do these things with art, because art changes lives. I stick behind that. I know that it's true because I'm living proof of it. Art changed my life. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into this interview, and I really want to say thank you to all the dedicated listeners, and go ahead and pass this along. Pass this along to a friend that you think might get something out of it or might be interested, and support what we're doing, because it isn't anything without support. And if you support positive change and growth and you want to make something different happen with our system, because ultimately it affects everybody. Whether you realize it or not, it affects everybody, the positive change within the system. And if you can make that happen, if there's any way that you can support us, go buy a Free Taylor t-shirt. It's on there, freetaylorproject.com. Go to Design Conviction and check out the community that we have. There's a bunch of people that are doing positive things within that community. Support one of those people. Hit them up. Write to them. Check out their artwork. Buy a piece of artwork from them. Do something to make a contribution and see the rewards that you get from that. Because when you support that, you're supporting something good in life. And by the way, everything that we do, every profit that we make, 50% of that goes back into helping somebody else. So, thank you very much, and go ahead and take it away on this interview.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Life of aLifer. My name is Salty CANDACE. Today, we are talking with Trevor Brown, an inmate at the Minnesota Department of Corrections. Trevor was convicted at the age of 18, was given a 30 years life sentence. Policy changes in Minnesota's Department of Corrections for individuals who have served 20 years of their life sentence and who are eligible for parole are allowing Mr. Brown the opportunity to begin the process of preparing for parole. His next hearing, scheduled for 2025, will be when he finds out if he's approved for a transfer to a minimum security facility where he will be eligible for work programs in the community. Now, Trevor is a student teacher with the Power of the People Leadership Institute, is currently enrolled in a mechanical engineering and parametric modeling CADD program, and he is also contributing to a book with Dr.Kim Socha that is entitled Sonny and Savannah, Dismantling the School to Prison Pipeline in the Age of Hip-Hop. Hello, Trevor, and thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I hear that it's cold there.
Yes, ma'am. It sure is.
Dang it. Well, I hope that you're able to keep warm and get an extra blanket and bundle up.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk with you today about the school-to-prison pipeline. So for people who may not know, can you tell us what the school-to-prison pipeline is?
Well, the school-to-prison pipeline is, how they kind of, socialize, children and culturally shuffle children, into the criminal justice system. And, it begins kind of where, say, for instance, like a child, is at school, and let's say, for instance, he has, trouble at home or a troubled background, and he or she begins to, encounter problems in school and, navigate, the school culture and his or her academic life, and, then they're sent to the principal's office. And after some point in time, the school, what, happens is it triggers a call to, say, for instance, like a social worker. And then a social worker comes in and, they do like an evaluation upon these children and, begin to, shuffle them off into, maybe what they call it county home schools or other public homes, foster homes or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And, eventually these kids begin to get in trouble, and they are then sent to the juvenile system where they're either, confined or placed on, probation, and, it just begins to escalate from there. But, in like the past probably maybe like 20 years or so, they've begun to have what they call SROs, school resource officers, and so now they're kind of just beginning to, circumvent that original process to, just completely criminalize children from school. Like they arrest the kids at school and send them off to a detention center or facility where they are, processed in through the criminal justice system. And what kind of has, made this possible is the the privatization for, some of these, what they call the prison industrial complex, where they have systems, for-profit systems, say, for instance, like, really some of these phone calls, even the phone companies, they charge these exorbitant rates, and the prison system profits from that, and, they get kickbacks, just like, for instance, like J-Pay and other services.
Exactly.
It's just begin all about money instead of, justice. Yeah. And now what I've been noticing, like, just, I'm not sure if this is across the board, but I'm going to take a stab at it and say that it is. I've noticed here in Minnesota, like, a vast majority of the prison population is from, the Twin Cities metropolitan area and, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And primarily who are the people of, that come out of those systems are, people of color, minorities, Hispanics, African Americans, Asians. That's the, largest demographic really in the prison system. And that demographic makes up, probably maybe like 15, 20% of the total population of the state of Minnesota, but they, disproportionately represent 75 to 80% of the prison population. And how this has occurred is because, the state of Minnesota, they have kind of consolidated crime into certain neighborhoods, and then they turn around and they slash, the school budgets in these areas. And so now you have overcrowded classrooms. They cut funding for sports, arts, music programs in these schools. And so they're already in, like kind of hot zones that the government classifies some of these areas for, economic, socioeconomic status. The government begins to classify these as like, hot spots kind of. And so they slash all the funding in these areas for programs that are conducive to, children's growth and development, and then they turn around and increase the Department of Corrections budget. It's pretty crazy. Like there is truly a direct correlation between the cutting of the budget in the educational area and a sharp increase in the correctional budget.
Exactly.
It's so crazy, and like nobody sees it. No one has any objection or protest to it because, largely the people who face these cuts, let's say for instance there are a lot of single parent homes, and a lot of times, the mother will be working, 2-3 jobs, trying to support, a number of children, so she's unable to, go to, say, like a grassroots meeting to object or protest the cuts in the budget. And oftentimes I don't think they even know.
Exactly. No, most of the times they don't.
Yeah, it's just, it's just so sad that that they do this, and then there's just the politics behind it. They say, once they've already criminalized you, and the recidivism rate for people who are incarceration, they say is like, I don't know, 60% maybe or something like that, but pretty much everyone in here that I know, they've been in the system of some sorts or a system for, a number of years, and this isn't their first offense. And so, it just begins to, repeat that vicious cycle. It perpetuates that vicious cycle, and, really people have been commodified, for the profit. And, it's just now they're beginning dialogue, at a national level now.
Yeah.
I think so many movements, like grassroots movements, a movement like this as well. They're beginning to surface because it's beginning to spread because with, capitalism and profiteering, their thing is to increase their profit margin. So, originally it may have started in these segregated areas, but now it's more broad and is affecting, more and more people and a broader range of people and socioeconomic status, and so now it's an issue, which it's good that it's an issue, but it's sad that it had to take that, you know.
Yeah, definitely it is. It is. Well, I understand that you're working on a book. Yeah, Dismantling the School to Prison Pipeline, the Age of Hip Hop. Can you tell listeners a little bit about the book and why it matters?
You know, I've been incarcerated now for, you know, going on 23 years. I was taken into custody at 18 years old, and, you know, I've educated myself, you know, informally as well as formally, you know, through St. Cloud State University, and, you know, some people helped to launch me upon this, you know, this trajectory, and, you know, as I began to, you know, grow and increase my knowledge base and begin to, you know, really understand this system, you know, not only fight, you know, because I fought my case, and, you know, I beat this case in 2004, and the state re-indicted me, where I had like 3 or 4 separate mistrials, and, you know, I just got to a point after they reconvicted me and sent me back to prison. I'm like, you know, I got to change my life. I got to do something different, and, you know, I really began to examine, you know, this system, and, you know, just try to get a deeper understanding of, you know, what was going on, and you know, then I began to, you know, just, you know, write it out, and then, you know, I really enjoy like creative nonfiction, and, you know, I started to write, you know, this story through, you know, a fictional character about, you know, the criminal justice system in America, you know, through my experiences and through some of the things that I've, you know, unearthed and discovered, and, yeah, I just really feel that it needs to be told.
What do you think is the most important factor in the school-to-prison pipeline? What is the first thing that needs to change?
Well, you know, I think the privatization of, you know, some of these companies that are, you know, allowed to, you know, come into the prison system, you know, through the creation of, you know, the prison industrial complex. You know, it kind of, I think, started with, you know, the private prisons, you know, and it kind of grew from there. You know, they had a company, I think it was called Corrections Corporation of America or something like that. I think it's CCA. It was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, you know, prison manufacturer in the world. And, you know, now they have conventions where, you know, companies can come in and bid for jobs, you know, let's say, for instance, like commissary, you know, the commissary for the prison systems, you know, they got food organizations and telephone companies and, you know, other service providers for, like, let's say, for instance, like, you know, JPay or whatnot, you know, and it's all geared towards, you know, to give, you know, the largest profit margin for, you know, them and the prison systems. You know, they sell, you know, products that are, you know, near expiration date already, you know, for probably pennies on the dollar, and they charge, you know, exorbitant prices. And, you know, they pay people, you know, very minimal wages for jobs in these places. You know, and so people are reliant on, you know, their families and, you know, friends and, you know, people who care about them, and, you know, they're just really, they're being exploited for, you know, $1.
Exactly. Now, what do you think we as a society should do to change what is happening in our schools?
In large part, this has to be, you know, first and foremost, a dialogue. You know, it always begins with dialogue. You know, and it has to be, you know, opposed to the issues at hand, where they're like, hey, hold on, this is, you know, if you're going to, say, for instance, take this these profits, you know, then we want them to go towards something that is going to benefit, you know, our family member or us, or something that's going to be more conducive to helping people, you know, not reoffend or recidivate. You know, something is viable, because the solutions, what they, you know, they call, when people get out of prison, they call it transition. But transitioning is, you know, really a failed American experiment. You know, for what they provide to transition is setting someone up for failure. to really, to go into that revolving door. And it's not for my benefit or, someone in my position. It's not for our benefit, so, if we don't begin to take our lives into our own hands and and really try to come up with a vision for yourself and try to, make a real solid plan, but some people, obviously don't have the resources for that. There's people in here that are, who are homeless, some people who are mentally ill, they've, in large part, closed mental facilities and began to, criminalize them, because a lot of people don't need to be here because of mental health issues. They need mental health, not prison.
Right. Exactly. Can you tell us what we could learn if we just would listen to people like yourself? You've been incarcerated. You've seen both sides of it. You see how it's affecting the individuals inside in the community where you're forced to be at. Could you tell us what we could learn if we just would step out of ourselves and listen to you guys?
Well, I think, because people, obviously don't have this experience, and so they, when you're making, judgment calls or you're ruling on issues or making decisions or policy, you need to have real access to real information. How can you formulate a policy or an agenda based upon some statistic, when the statistic isn't revealing of the real nature of the problem? It just, it's just a number. Like, okay, we have 10 people here and 4 people here, and it's not really revelatory of the heart of the issue, and so, they need to be open to bringing, real people in to provide, real information and real insight to, the policymakers and decision makers, and, because people don't, not that people want to be here, but they don't want to be here, not just because it's confinement, but they don't want this for their lives. People, I think, inherently believe that they have something, special in them, and that they're made for something special, and they have a purpose in their life, and, they want to manifest that. I believe that people want to live the best lives that they can, and, it is not here in prison.
Right. Definitely not.
Yeah, like, I don't know anyone who, truly wants this for their life,
Yeah, exactly.
No one wants to be here, but, not just because they can't leave, but no one wants to be in this place in their life.
Right. Right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today, Trevor, for your insight, for your dedication to making a positive impact. I want to applaud your efforts, and we wish you well in 2025. Hopefully things go smoothly and you get the second chance that's deserved.
Yeah, thank you. We want to thank you too. If it weren't for people like you, we wouldn't, be able to make progress, and people who, believe in change, and who are dedicated, because this is kind of a it's a concerted effort here. It takes people in the community and people like you, and hopefully it just continues to elevate and reach the policymakers and the people who are in power, and because really that's what a lot of people often forget is that this is here in our country is a representative government. We have people who are supposed to represent us, and the people who are representing us do not want to hear our voice,
Exactly.
And they need to hear, Yeah. Oh. Yeah, well, I really appreciate, everything that you do, and we appreciate the team that you guys have, and that it can continue to grow and expand and, really, begin to do some, really powerful things and, affect change,
Right.
There's a quote that I once read, it's by an anthropologist, her name is Margaret Mead. One of the things she said, never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world, because indeed it is the only thing that ever has. And
Exactly.
You know, I really believe in that, you know, and I like to spread that message to people, you know, that when people come together and, you know, no matter how small it is, it can just grow into something really powerful, you know, when people work together and, you know, try to figure things out.
Exactly. Small movements are where it starts, and they get bigger and have snowball effect and the ripple effect, and boom, changes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am,
All right.
they do.
Thank you so much, Trevor. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, so here I am. I'm back. This is Taylor. And that was a wonderful interview. I hope that you like it and got something out of it. And I really appreciate the people putting it on and putting it together. Because without that, none of this would be possible. So I always like to give my dedication and appreciation to those who help and support. Anybody who's helping and supporting. If you get a hold of us too, and you want to interact, you want to be more of a part of what we're doing, you want to find out, you know, more about it, you got questions, we got answers. So get a hold of us at aLifer. Go to lifeofaLifer.com and subscribe. You can also find us on Design Conviction and at Design Conviction on Instagram. They're available. We got support. You got questions, we got answers, like I said. So at this portion, I'm about to give an answer to a question that somebody hit us up with. Do you think the prison system is actually designed to reform the convicted, or are they destined to continue to go back once they've been? Wow. So to answer this question, I laugh because it's not funny. But to me, it's ironic because, you know, you check out my song So Cold, and one of my, you know, the deepest part to me on there is the bridge, and it says, so many faces come and go. People I know, they go home, and I remain on my own. And so they come and go. And over the years, I've been down incarcerated for about 14 years now, and you see the same faces over and over again. And some of the few, they get out and stay out, but the recidivism rate is so high that you gotta wonder, is the system really here to actually have rehabilitation? And I would say that the system is not designed for rehabilitation at all. And the reason that I say that is because most of the programs that are available, it's like a self, you know, you have to go and seek that out to get into it. And the whole environment is not conducive to being able to actually rehabilitate, because everything is geared towards punishment. So when you constantly throwing punishment and tension and not treating people like humans, the food is bad, everything is a consequence, everything is a punishment. There's not like a lot of incentive to really make changes. There's no rewards for it. And when you have a system that is based on negative reinforcement, there is not really a change that is going to take place, because in all psychological studies and in different methods of change and persuasion, in different behavioralist studies, everything says that positive reinforcement is what really enacts changes. And so if the system went from one of negative to positively reinforcing, I believe that you would see a drastic change there. You know, it would take time to implement that sort of thing, because the culture is all reinforced itself. It reinforces itself from within, from all the way from the people to the people who are in charge, so to speak. And having a system like that makes it to where nothing ever really changes and the people just keep coming back. And I believe that the biggest problem, too, is drugs. I mean, drugs revolve around just about the majority of crimes. Drugs revolve around the majority of people's issues because they're not really dealing with the root of the problem of why they're doing the drugs to begin with in the first place. So therefore, it perpetuates the cycle. And another thing about the programming, and I talked about this last time, somebody asked a question about the programming stuff, is that, you know, there's not nearly enough of it, and it's only available to a select few. And so, therefore, people could go 20 years and never receive much rehabilitation or much programming. And then maybe in the last year or two, they were able to get into some of these programs because that's, you know, the limited space availability is for like people with a year or less or a couple years or less. They're able to get into these programs. So by that time, they're already so ingrained with all this negative stuff, and they get into that. And the only reason that they do it is because, for one, they have to do it in order to get out. So they never really wanted to do it to begin with, and so nothing really actually takes place as far as a change happening. And for two, you can't just expect somebody to take one class or one program and that changes their whole life, because that's not how it works. It's like a continuous thing. So you have to continuously provide forms of rehabilitation in an environment that supports that rehabilitation. And then you may actually see some real reform going on, some real changes taking place. But, you know, I'm just a guy that's serving life in prison. What do I know? Anyways, I really do appreciate all the listeners out there. I want to say thank you, and I hope that you will participate more and get involved with what we're doing and follow us online, check us out, engage, and make sure that you cop that album, Free Taylor Project, when it comes out, because not only is it great music, but it supports a great cause. And just imagine all the things that I could do if I ever got out of here. So if you support that, support me, and we support you. And if maybe you got something that you want to do, and maybe we can support that too. All right. Well, you have a great day, and thank you very much for joining us.
Keep on walking.